I used a random word generator to make a game in 1 hour. Howdy do, it's Mr. Moo. Today I'm sharing with you my 1 hour game dev challenge. I had a blank Unity project, Photoshop, and a random word generator. The challenge is to use the first word the generator spits out to inspire a game that I have to create in less than 1 hour. I recorded myself doing the challenge, hoping to use the audio and video as the primary narration for this video. But unfortunately, it turns out it's quite hard to articulate yourself when you're focused on making a game like this. The clock began after I got the word plane. So I hopped into Photoshop to make a quick pixel plane. I truly did not know what I was going to make walking into this challenge. My plan was to hop into Photoshop and use the art to inspire me. Also, I was going to make a high score game because I felt like that was the easiest way to make a closed game loop. As soon as I imported the plane into Unity, I immediately thought of the game Flappy Bird. And I said, yeah, I can do that, I can make that. So let me make some pipes. I honestly got really lucky with the word plane. I was afraid I was going to get something more abstract, like displacement or something. Which, to be completely honest, I probably would have just skipped and tried a new word, but luckily I didn't have to do that. The theme of plane really lends itself to a lot of different game ideas and game types that already exist. So, after I made the plane sprite, I added box collider and rigid body, and I needed to make the plane controller to dictate how this plane would move. Quite simply, every time the player hit the spacebar, the plane would add upward force to its rigid body. Since Gravity was working on the rigid body already, this succeeded to perform this kind of bouncing, flapping movement that you see in Flappy Bird. For horizontal motion, it was moving consistently to the right. It'll look better than this when I fix the value set. But the code was right here, I think. What you're watching here, by the way, is the footage on 8 times the speed. I then added a script to the camera so that it would follow the plane on the x-axis but not on the y, so we wouldn't have to worry about the camera bouncing along with the airplane. Logic-wise, the trickiest thing was to generate the pipes. So I played around with the sprites in the scene view to figure out what the distance should be between the pipes. And then I decided the best way to generate them is through a game manager script. I set where the start position would be with an empty object's transform. I used a few public variables to specify the distance between the pipes, how many pipes would need to be generated in the beginning, and then randomly selected from the list of possible pipe prefabs. There would be multiple pipe prefabs because the pipes would have different heights. Otherwise, it wouldn't really be much of a game. Then, to set the position of that pipe, I would take the starting position and then add to the x value, the distance between each pipes times the number of pipes that I have already created. You can see here that I'm working through the logic and mixing up my variables. By the way, my 2-year passion project Stolen Hearts is available for wishlist on Steam. You know, if you want to check that out. I need to figure out when to create a new pipe besides right in the beginning. I wanted to create a new pipe every time I passed one, or in other words, every time the score increased, so naturally I needed a way to track the score. I was initially thinking that I could use a trigger collider over the pipes, but I thought the better solution was to use the plane's position, and if it passed the x position of the next pipe, then we would increment the score. Create another pipe, then add the distance between the pipes to the current x position of the pipe to the next x position, and at that point the player would get a point. In short, every time the plane passes a pipe, you get a point, and the pipes would keep getting created. I took this opportunity to put a score tracker at the top right of the canvas, and it was all coming together quite swimmingly if I did say so myself. Now I needed to make the pipes different heights, and also have pipes on top, so the plane would have a narrow gap to shoot. Otherwise, they could just stay all the way at the top. The screen was 10 units tall, and the plane was 1 unit tall, and I wanted the gap for the plane to be 3. And I wanted the minimum height of any pipe to be 2, so I needed to make pipes of height 2, 3, 4, and 5. The original one I made was of height 2, so I just needed to quickly do the same for the rest of the sizes. Once I finished in Photoshop, it was back to Unity to make the prefabs for each of the combinations. 2 on the bottom and 5 on top, 3 on the bottom and 4 on top, 4 on the bottom and 3 on top, and 5 on the bottom and 2 on top. I just flipped the top sprite by making the Y value negative on the game object I put it in. It was really looking like Flappy Bird at this point, but now I needed to track the end state. Quite simply, if the plane collided with a pipe or it reached the upper or lower bounds, then the game was over. And all I had to do for the end game was set the time scale to 0 and show text on the screen telling them to press R to reset the game. On the Game Manager script, I reloaded the scene using the scene management. All that was left was working through some bugs and code that didn't work right the first time and tweaking the values. I spent the last few minutes in Photoshop making a background with a nice blue sky and some very misshapen clouds. And that was all the time I had. I ended up spending another 5 minutes turning the pipes into buildings, which I thought worked a little more appropriately with the theme of plane. So yeah, I did cheat a little bit. And there you have it. I used a word generator to make Flappy Plane in 1 hour. If I had another hour to work on this, I might get the clouds to move, add some tilt of the plane based on the vertical direction that it's moving in, definitely spruce the art, add some sound effects and music, and all that little stuff. If you have an idea for another challenge I should do, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing with the bell, hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.